I recently published this book, Spiritual Economics, Lessons in Spiritual Economics based on Bhagavad Gita. The subtitle is Understanding and Solving the Economic Problem. And so I've been living in Eastern Europe for the last 5 years. I preach in Ukraine and Belarus and the Baltics, just next to Russia, those countries. And so recently my eldest son had a child, my first grandson, so I came to see grandson. And then while I'm here, I'm traveling and preaching about the spiritual economics. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about this today, give you some idea about this. Economics, this word, of course, this book is actually based on Bhagavad Gita, right? But in Bhagavad Gita, you don't see one time the word economics any place. But we can understand this in a different way, that economics simply means how we live in this world, right? This word comes from Greek word, economos. Economos means household. So, how do you get what you need to live in your house, right? Food, shelter, clothing, like that. And this is the basic meaning of economics. So although Krishna, he doesn't speak about economics directly in Bhagavad Gita, he talks about many things related to economics. Fruitive work, what to do with the results of work. He talks about duty, right? He talks about desire. These things are all related to how we live in this world. So spiritual economics means simply to live according to Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita. Very simple. This is a wonderful book. Most wonderful book, right? But if we don't follow it, what good is it, right? You may have read, Prabhupada writes about the armchair philosophers, right? They sit around in big stuffed chairs and they pontificate. Oh, it's like this and it's like that, and they talk so much philosophy, and then they go and do something entirely different. Well, to some degree we also do that. We are perhaps those armchair philosophers that Srila Prabhupada is talking about. So I'll give you some idea about this. What's the final instruction of Bhagavad Gita? Yeah. Abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I will protect you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Sarva Dharma. Sarva means all. Dharma, Prabhupada translates there as religion. But this word Dharma, it has many meanings. And Parityaga, give it up. So this is a little strange, isn't it? Krishna, He's God. We usually think God, He wants us to follow religion. Right? But here Krishna is telling us, give up all varieties of religion. All this Dharma you think you're supposed to do. Give it up. And instead what? Mam ekam sharanam vraja. Do what I say. Do what I say in Bhagavad Gita. So, we have to understand this clearly, this idea of Dharma that we're supposed to give up. What does that mean? To understand that, we go to the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In first chapter of Gita, Krishna, Arjuna is complaining to Krishna. He doesn't want to fight the battle. And he gives many good arguments. Right? He says, if we kill these men, the ladies will be unprotected. If the ladies are unprotected, the family traditions will be lost. The ancestors, they'll fall down from heaven. Everything won't work. And these are good arguments, right? Because actually what Arjuna said actually happened. They were very good arguments. But as important as the argument itself, we have to know, where does this argument come from? So Arjuna is raising these objections. Where are these objections from? From Dharma, which is the culture of Krishna's time. Right? At that time, they were following Vedic culture. And the objections Arjuna gave were from Vedic culture. This is Vedic. So, they're very good questions. Now here we are, we're in a situation we're trying to establish Vedic culture, right? We're living in what you would call militia culture, really. All this world here, America. They don't know Bhagavad Dharma. So, and we're trying to establish Vedic culture, but Krishna is telling Arjuna to forget Vedic culture. Right? So, you have to understand very clearly. What does this mean for us today? At that time, Hare Krishna. So, let's take an idea. This is actually Dharma of Arjuna's time. Hare Krishna. The Dharma of Arjuna's time is to follow Vedic culture. Let's think about what are the Dharma of America. What's some of the Dharma of this culture that we live in here? Freedom. So-called. So-called freedom. What else? I give an example which actually doesn't apply here. I usually give an example of cutting grass, but I don't think anybody has grass here, right? Do they keep grass in their house? Sometimes. So, in most of the country where it's not so dry, they keep grass in front of their house.
They keep water for all.
Yeah. And you have to keep your grass nicely cut so it looks attractive, yeah? So when I was just a young devotee, after I lived in the temple for 5 years, I got married and my wife and I, we got a house. And the grass wasn't so very good shape. So I thought, I should be a good citizen, I should make my grass look nice, right? So I was going to go to the store to buy some seed for planting grass. And then I was thinking, well, where does grass seed come from? It comes from grass, right? I already have some grass, so why don't I just let the grass grow? It will produce seed, and then it will naturally become more full, right? This is my idea. So I didn't know how long this process would take. After 3-4 weeks, my grass is this high. Everybody else, their grass is this high. Right? And so I knew that I was doing something wrong. My neighbor, the man who lived next door, he sent his 12-year-old son over. He said, my dad wants to know when you're going to cut your grass. Right? So this is the Dharma of America. You have to keep your grass cut. Right? I read not too long ago, last year, that there was one 70-year-old lady, someplace here in America. She was too weak to cut grass. She didn't have any money to pay somebody to cut the grass, so her grass became very high. And the policeman came to her door. They wanted to arrest her because she didn't cut her grass. Huh? There was another man, he was in Florida. And there, of course, if you don't water your grass like here, very quickly it becomes brown. So his sprinkler system broke. He couldn't water his grass, and so the policeman also came to take him to jail because he didn't keep his grass properly. So this is a Dharma, huh? This is one idea of what we mean by Dharma in modern society. Huh? What are some other Dharmas here? Now you're from other cultures, so you should be able to see easily what is Dharma, what is this idea of Dharma in America?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, yeah. Okay. And 4th of July barbecue, right? Fireworks and barbecue.
Thanksgiving turkey.
Huh?
Thanksgiving turkey.
Thanksgiving turkey, right. Yeah. So these are some of the dharmas of America, right? When Krishna says sarva dharma parityaga, this is what he means. All these so-called dharmas that we think we're supposed to do according to this militia culture, give that up. And instead we do what Krishna says to do in Bhagavad Gita. Right? You understand? There's so many things that we because we're raised in a culture from the time we're infants, it's very difficult for us to see culture, for us to understand. It's automatic. It's just the way we live in this world. So it's very difficult to see how this culture is working like that. Fashion is another aspect of culture, right? Everybody's supposed to, the young people especially, they dress very fashionably. They, have their duty, their civic duty. We must pay our taxes, be good citizens, and so on. These are other kinds of dharma. But now, those things, they're a little more obvious. And now I want to talk to you about some of the very hidden aspects of dharma, things that we can't even see. So we talked about the last lesson in Bhagavad Gita. What's the first lesson?
That you are not the body.
We're not the body. Not devaham chatunasam, not tvam nime janaripaha, nachayvana bhavishyama sarvaivayam taparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Now there's a way to read Bhagavad Gita so that this makes sense. And that is that we must adjust our understanding to Bhagavad Gita, not try to adjust Bhagavad Gita to us. Right? If we try to do it the latter way, it won't make sense. For example, somebody says, Krishna says, never was there a time when I did not exist. Well, you may say, well, my birthday is July 16th, 1980, and before that I did not exist. And my grandfather, he died 4 years ago, so he's gone. So what does this mean? Never was there a time when I didn't exist, nor in the future shall I cease to be. This Bhagavad Gita is crazy. Right? So if we try to adjust Bhagavad Gita to the way we understand, it won't make sense. We have to adjust ourselves to Bhagavad Gita. So when Krishna says, never was there a time when I did not exist, but this body has a beginning, we understand we are something different from the body. We're spiritual. So he talks about how we are not the body for about 20 verses, and then he changes the subject and he gives the second lesson in Bhagavad Gita. So what's the second lesson in Bhagavad Gita? Now you can study Bhagavad Gita like this. You go through and you find out what is the first lesson, second lesson, third lesson.
Second lesson is that soul is immortal.
This is part of the first lesson. Yeah. Krishna speaks about 20 verses about the nature of the soul, we're not the body, and so on. This is the first lesson. Second lesson. Now, false ego has two aspects, right? I and mine. I and mine. So these are the first two lessons of Bhagavad Gita. First, Krishna talks about I, and then he's going to talk about mine. Okay? So first two lessons. The mind section starts with verse 247. Open it up. 247. Kamani varikaraste. Kamani varikaraste ma paleshu karachana. Ma kama palahitu abur mate sangosta karmani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. In this sloka, there is another idea of our dharma there. Okay? Right? Krishna says you have a right to perform your duty, but you're not entitled. 247, Prabhupada. 247. Why is he looking in back? Chapter 2. It doesn't. Okay. Well, he knows English enough. 247, yeah? You know? 2? Chapter 2.
But the page number also in Hindi. Complicated.
No. So, Krishna says, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but what? The result of that activity doesn't belong to you. Now, usually when I give this lecture, there's a room full of people, and I ask, how many have a job? Anybody here have a job? Mataji. Okay, one. Most of the people have a job, they're not here, they're working, right? So Mataji, why do you go to work?
I work in a mail order pharmacy as a pharmacy technician.
And why do you go to work?
To make a living.
What does that mean?
I have to pay my bills.
Yeah, that's your motivation.
Right.
So why do you go there? You go there because they give you money.
Yes.
If they didn't give you money, would you go there? No. Okay. So, this payment that you get, this is called also fruits of action. Right? But Krishna says here, you're not entitled to the fruits of action. The problem here, right? This modern culture is actually set up opposite of the way Krishna tells us to live in Bhagavad Gita. Why does Krishna tell us we're not entitled to the fruits of action? We must understand this very clearly, very carefully. We know, you all must know the idea of karma. This is not a new concept for you, yeah? So karma, according to our desire, when we desire something, when we do something, when we do some action that we want the result for, we must get the result. Must. Okay? Now, we're conditioned souls. If we continually act in a way that we want the result, we work for the result, this sets up a conditioning in our consciousness which is called a fruitive mentality. It means I do something because I want something back. But Krishna is telling us not to do that. Why? Because this will cause us to come back to this world again. If we're engaged in fruitive activity, we have so many desires, we must get those desires fulfilled. And for that, generally speaking, people have to come back again and again and again to this world. So, it's very important for us to understand that in order to free ourselves from this cycle of birth and death, we give up this fruitive mentality. And Krishna goes on and he explains, he actually criticizes this idea very strongly. He says, Kripana palahetava, 249. He says, those who want the fruits of their work, they are misers. Now what's a miser? This word, generally we think of a person, he has a lot of money, but he will not spend it. Right? Money is meant to be used. It's a medium of exchange. If we don't spend that money and just sit there, it can't fulfill its purpose. So we generally think of a miser for that. But the real definition of this word means a person who has something valuable and they don't recognize the value of it. So this is kripana. Now, human life gives us the opportunity to go back to Godhead. This body is like a vehicle, like your car. You get in your car because you want to go someplace, right? It takes you from here to there. So this body can take us from here in this material world to Vaikuntha, to Goloka Vrindavan. So we want to use this body as a vehicle to get ourselves out of this material world. But if we don't use it in the right way, if we use it for fruitive activity, we don't get to the right destination. We lose this valuable opportunity of eternal devotional service in Goloka Vrindavan. So therefore, Krishna says, give up this fruitive activity. And instead do what? What should we do if we're not doing fruitive activity? So he explains that also in Bhagavad Gita. He explains that we should engage ourselves instead in devotional service. And one instruction for that is in chapter 3, text number 10, I think. Yajnartat karmano yatra lokoyam karma bandhana kataham itmanyate. That Work must be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, this work will bind us to this material world. This is the secret. How to use this body as a vehicle to go back to Godhead by using it for devotional service. And devotional service means simply you give something to Krishna out of love. Right? This is devotional service. We serve Krishna with love, and Krishna, He reciprocates. He's always actually waiting to reciprocate with us. He's giving us first everything we need. We had so many material desires which caused us to take birth in this material world. And He gives us a body to fulfill those desires. He gives food that we need for the body, water, air, sunshine, everything that we need. Krishna He's providing free as a gift. Mother Earth, you plant some seeds. As a gift, she gives fruits. Right? She's not asking for payment, is she? The earth says, oh, please, you go for tomatoes in the back. Tomato plant says, oh, $2 a pound. Huh? No. Out of love. Earth is giving so much. And so we should take that, whatever Krishna is giving, we offer to Him, and Krishna reciprocates. He doesn't keep it. He accepts it and He gives back His prasadam. Right? And then what do? We just take it? No. We honor prasadam. We offer it to Krishna as fire of digestion. As the fire in the belly. Krishna is digesting all these foodstuffs. And then He gives back to us so much energy, and we use that energy for doing more devotional service. So this reciprocation is meant to go on, this loving reciprocation between God and between His devotee. This is the way of living spiritual life. This is what goes on in Vaikuntha, in Goloka Vrindavan. All the devotees are serving Krishna and He's reciprocating with them. He's serving them also. And this reciprocation goes on eternally. So, now we may ask, well, okay, I'm not entitled to the fruits of action, so how am I going to live? Right? Because in this world, if you don't have money, you can't live. And where do you get money from? Somebody else who has money, right? So there's always this you have to get. We get in a mentality of getting. I have to get money. Then I have to use that money to get things. Right? Not the mentality of devotional service is giving, not getting. So Krishna consciousness is meant to change this consciousness, this getting consciousness to a giving consciousness. And then we have to see, sometimes, I speak about this point, and devotees, they will say, we can't follow Bhagavad Gita now in the modern day. It's impossible. They say, some have said that. This is an anachronism. Something that applied in the past, we cannot do this today. What do you think? Huh? What do you say?
Principles of Bhagavad Gita are eternal.
Huh?
Principles of Bhagavad Gita are eternal.
Yes.
And second thing is that Bhagavad Gita teaches us two things. One is Swadharma and other is Bhagavad Dharma.
Nice. Very good. You're exactly right. Bhagavad Gita is eternal truth. It never changes. It's also applicable just as much today as when Krishna spoke 5,000 years ago. But it's not applicable in the context of this atheistic culture. This atheistic culture is arranged to increase this idea of I and mine. Right? I get more money, I get a bigger house, a bigger car, and then I am a better person. I am more important than you. Prabhupada gives the example one time he saw in India. Many people, they're driving Tata car. And some man, he was driving some other fancy, more modern car, nicer car. And so he was criticizing the man driving the fancy car. He was criticizing the Tata driver. Tata, get out of the way! Right? Like this. So we identify with the car, right? I am my car. I am my position in the company, or I am my bank balance. I'm a billionaire, millionaire, like this, right? But this is all Maya, because we're not those things. We're not the body. But this culture, they want to increase I and mine. I get more, I am more. I am, like it says, Krishna says in 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, for the demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today and I will get more according to my schemes. This is demonic mentality, Krishna says. I am perfect, powerful, happy, I am aristocratic, I will enjoy in this world. This is demonic mentality, and that's exactly the mentality that this culture is trying to press on our consciousness. So, we can live according to Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita, but not in the context of modern civilization. Bhagavad Gita has its own context, and Krishna has given us that way to live. That context is village life. Krishna himself, he's giving his own example. He's living in a village, right? Taking care of cows. This is his example for us, how we should also live. Prabhupada also wanted that his followers, that they develop this ideal village life to teach people how to live properly in this world. We may stay in the city for preaching, but we're not meant to simply make a place, a permanent kind of settlement here, and we just stay here and then we just continue on. That's not the idea. Because it's very difficult to do devotional service here. Yesterday I was talking with Radhamada Prabhu. That's his name? Radhamada? Vice President, yeah. So, he was explaining that today nobody has time. They don't have time to come to temple, right? In the evening or morning, everybody's busy. You got to get the kids to school, then you pick them up, then you have to cook dinner, and then you're tired and you need a rest, right? This is modern life. But because you have to go far away for your work, then you have to come home, you have to take the kids somewhere else to school, you have to bring them back, you have to go to somewhere else to get food and bring it back. What if you just stay in your house and you do everything there? No commute. Food is growing right outside your door. This is how we are meant to live.
Still you have to go get the soil and stuff from Home Depot.
Huh?
If you grow your food also, you have to drag to Home Depot to get the soil. It's difficult in village to make village life.
Yes. What we need, you see, like I said, we can't live Bhagavad Gita in the context of modern society. We have to create another context. Because, especially in America, that context doesn't exist. Now, I live in Ukraine. I've been in Eastern Europe for 5 years. And there they still have a village culture. There's still a little bit there. In India, of course, you know, village culture is there, very strong. But in America, it's finished. It's gone. So, again, we have to create that. And even in Ukraine, we have to create somewhat because the ability is lost. The understanding that technology is almost lost. We have to get those things and bring them back. And the way we do that is to use this culture to create that culture. Like the example is given, you step on a thorn, so you use another thorn to take it out of your foot. So we have to buy our way out of this culture. Because you can't just go and get land. You have to buy land. You have to buy a house. You have to buy a cow. Right? Then once you have your land, your house, your cow, then you can stay there and you can live simple if you don't become entangled in the money economy. Right? If you're doing things that require money, where do you get that money from? Somebody who has money. You have to go outside. Right? You have to associate with the Malecha culture in order to get the Malecha money. Right? So, Krishna says, Sarvadharma Parityaga, he means all of this. This whole city, Phoenix. Sarvadharma Parityaga, give it up. Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Krishna doesn't tell us to live in cities here in Bhagavad Gita. Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, he gives, there's 4 varnas, he gives duties for those varnas. Vaishya, they should do agriculture, cow protection. But what are our Vaishyas doing today? They're doing business. Our Vaishyas are generally doing business. But who's taking care of cow? So,
we are taking care of them.
And the bull?
And cow.
And the bull? What happens to the bull?
Bull will come next.
Next life.
This is important. This is a very important thing. Because my daughter lives in Tampa. She is vegan. You know, vegan means they eat no animal products. Why? Because as dairy products, they are contaminated by the karma of killing the bulls. Also the cows. They simply exploit these animals very greedily. The cow they keep for 2-3 years only. And then her milk production goes down, slaughterhouse. So when you buy milk or dairy products in the store, this has some karma. So we have to take care of the bull. Now, why don't we do that? In 1977, I was living in Gita Nagari Farm in Pennsylvania. We were waiting for Prabhupada to come there. He was going to show us how to do Varnashram Dharma. I was the treasurer of that farm at that time. We had 30 cows giving milk in the barn. We had so much milk and so much paneer. And, usually sometimes you go to the Sunday feast and you ask them, please, can I have a little more paneer? So at Gita Nagari we're always saying, too much paneer, let me have more sabji. Like this. So many cows, 30 cows giving milk. And we also had a barn full of 30 oxen just standing there, eating grass all day. Because the men were not working the bull. At the same time, I was a treasurer. Part of my job was to go to the city, Harrisburg, 2 hours away driving, to buy boga to bring to the farm. So I said, something is wrong with this picture. Right? This is not how Prabhupada meant us to live. We're living in a farm, but we're buying food from the city. And the bull just doing nothing. Now bulls, they like to work. They like to do something. They have these big muscles and they like to go out and they like to work in the field. If you ever work with a bull, you see, they're very eager to do this. But our men, they're not doing it. Why not? Because it's easier to make money. But Krishna says, Sarvadharmam Parityaga. It means his money, that Parityaga, give it up. Sarvadharma, you do what I say. Agriculture, cow protection. Cow protection means engaging the bull. This is what we are supposed to do. We have to create this culture to demonstrate. We have to show. We have to live Bhagavad Gita. We have to show how to follow Krishna's instruction. And then we can have time for spiritual life. Because you save 1 hour for commuting one way, 1 hour for commuting another way, more hours that you don't have to go to the grocery store. And that time you can use for Krishna consciousness. So, we have to understand Bhagavad Gita clearly. When Krishna says, Sarvadharmam Parityaga, this is what he means. This culture is not created by Krishna. In 4th chapter of my book, here I'm explaining how this modern culture came about. It didn't happen by chance. It was designed by a particular class of men to exploit the majority of people without their even knowing it. And people have a job and they're working so hard, and now more hard and more hard since the economy is going down, right? mother working, or father working plus mother working, children also working, just like in Bengal. You go to Bengal, what do they pay? These people, they go to factory to work, they pay them 5 rupees an hour. Right? You can't live on even 5 rupees an hour, even in Bengal. So mother's working, father's working, the children are all working. They go to the factory to work, they work 15, 16, 18 hours a day. They exploit them so much. And why? And Prabhupada, he gives the example, hogs, dogs, camels, and asses, right? So the ass, such a foolish animal, he can eat grass any place. There's grass all over the place. But he works very hard for the laundrymen. You see in India, I saw one time when I was in Vrindavan, this laundry, the ass is this high, and the laundry went up to the fan. You cannot even see the ass. He's so small. So he's struggling under this big load. Why? Because he's foolish. Food is available right there, but he's working hard like this. So we are also, this modern society is a society of the ass. Working so hard. Mother working, father working, children working 10, 12 hours a day. When you can go live in the village and grow your own food, it doesn't cost anything. So I live now in Ukrainian village. I actually, from my preaching, there are several communities coming. I have one community in Lithuania, one community in Ukraine. And when I go there, I live in this village. We have no water in the house. We have no gas in the house. We have electricity only. So for toilet, we go outside. For bath, we go outside. For water, we bring from the well, bring it in, take it out. Like this. This is a simple life. Just like India, practically, huh? And it's nice. Once you get over Rajagun, when you're in the city, you have Rajagun, Tamagun. You're filled with this passion and ignorance. And so, for a person in Rajagun, when they look at Sattvagun, it doesn't look so nice. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. That Sattvagun, in the beginning it's like poison. We don't like it. But in the end, it's like nectar. Because we're conditioned souls. We're conditioned to this Rajagun and Tamagun. And so we think, no, it's too hard to work in the village. Better I just stay here in town. I have my air conditioning. I have, my television. So many things. But it won't make you happy. It can't make us happy. Instead, we become exploited more and more and more. And no time for Krishna. Right? Usually, these Bhagavatam classes in America, in Los Angeles I was speaking, I give the same lecture. How many have a job? Nobody raised their hand. Because they're all living in that community. All the people with jobs, they're all working someplace. So no time for Krishna consciousness. No time for Bhagavad Gita. No time to come and see beautiful deities in the morning. This is not how we're meant to live. We have to create a different context for Krishna consciousness. This is what we're meant to do. Especially now, as this economy is crumbling more and more, then people will struggle more and more. It will become more and more difficult. And I'll tell you a secret. Since I'm writing on spiritual economics, I follow economic news. This economic problem, it's not going to get better. Some people they like to think, the government is working on it, they'll fix it, and then pretty soon we'll go back to normal. Right? Normal is going to become more and more difficult. It's not going to get fixed. So then what are we going to do? We should use our intelligence to plan for that, and at the same time say, yes, we want to live according to Bhagavad Gita. Even regardless of what happens to the economy, we should live according to Bhagavad Gita. Right? And then we should make some plan to do that. Now there's some people, maybe, how many of you have heard of peak oil?
Peak oil.
Peak oil. Anybody heard about this? This is the idea that the earth only has a limited amount of oil. We started in the beginning of 20th century taking oil from the ground, and now we've come to halfway. We've taken out more than half of the oil, and so it goes up, peak production, right? And then from now on, the supply is going to decrease. Now, we have such a huge demand for oil every day. I don't know how many millions of barrels of oil are consumed every day around the world. But we're dependent on it. If the oil's not there, the electricity doesn't go on, your car doesn't work, the water doesn't come out of the pipe, and nothing happens. There's no food in the store. This whole civilization is built on oil. So some people are looking forward. They're saying sometime in the future, there's going to be a big problem when the oil stops. What are we going to do? So they're starting to plan for that. So this has become what's called the transition towns. The towns that are trying to make a transition from oil dependency to oil independency. And they're simplifying their life. They're doing actually what Krishna is telling us to in Bhagavad Gita. Live simple life, locally, like that. And our devotees should understand this, and we should also be doing the same thing. If not for peak oil reason, for Bhagavad Dharma. Because that's the way Krishna tells us to live. Prabhupada had the vision 40 years ago. When he first began, he started New Vrindavan in 1969. 40 years ago he started, 41 years ago, started New Vrindavan. Because he wanted to show the world how to live properly. This is an important part of Prabhupada's preaching. He emphasized the farms over and over again. I prefer to call them villages, not just farm. Farm gives the wrong idea. Because not everybody's going to be farmer. We need more than farmers. We need a whole culture there. We need artists. We need somebody to take care of the deities. Somebody to decorate the deities. We need teachers. We need every part of society. But the economic basis for that culture is agriculture. Agriculture gives Krishna is so generous, right? In the bank today, how much return you get? You put some money in the bank, what do they give you? 2%? 1%, 2%, like this, right? So what does Krishna give you? If you plant 1 grain of rice, what is the return? You get about 10,000% return. Bank is giving 2%, Krishna is giving 10,000%. If you plant corn, it's even better. You get 100,000% return. If you plant wheat, you get 5,000% return. So why put money in the bank? You get wheat, you get rice, you plant that, and you live simply. This is Krishna's economics. Very generous. Abundance, not scarcity. But we have to work according to the plan that Krishna is giving. And then we are meant to teach this. Prabhupada was visionary. He could see it was coming. In the mid-50s, he wrote in his Back to Godhead magazine, said this modern civilization will not last much more than 50 years. Right? Time's up. 50 years is over. And we can see it's going to crumbling. So what are we going to do? We're going to sit here and do the same thing day after day? Or we're going to make some plan how to put ourselves in a situation where life will not be so difficult. We should make some plan. Devotees are meant to lead the world in this way. Prabhupada said in the future they will come to our farms by the tens of thousands. But if we don't have a farm, where are they going to go? They'll come to our farm because we're following Prabhupada's vision to live this simple life. Prabhupada wanted us to do that, but we're not doing it. We need to understand very clearly, Sarvadharmam Parityaga. All those so-called dharmas, Parityaga. Mame kam saranam vraja. So this is the future. The future is not going to be the same as the past. This world is going to change. The sadhu, he has vision, he can see past, present, future through the eyes of Shastra, Jnana Chakshu. He knows what the future is going to be simply by understanding modes of material nature. When you have a culture that's absorbed in Rajagun and Tamagun, you cannot get the result of Sattvagun. Right? But that's what people think they can get. I'll do Rajagun, I'll do Tamagun, and then I'll be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. But what's the result of Rajagun? No. Come on, you know this? You should know this. What's the result of Rajagun?
Excessive work.
No. 17, chapter 17. Oh no, chapter 14. Find the result of Rajagun. Huh? I should memorize the sloka. I don't have it memorized. What? 15? No, that's not the one. The result of I don't know. Maybe it's in chapter 17. What's the English?
The result of Rajagun is dukham, distress, and
yes.
ignorance is the
What sloka is that?
first line.
This is the idea. The result of Rajagun. Huh?
It's 15. No,
16. Chapter 14? Wow. The result of Rajagun is?
Dukham.
Distress, dukkha. Right? We want to be happy, but we're doing Rajagun. We're doing Tamagun. We're doing things that are going to bring distress and destruction. And so we can understand this world situated in Rajagun, it looks very nice now, but the end must be, it must be suffering and destruction. Because there's no Sattvagun. If we want Sattvagun, we have to do Sattvagun. And where is Sattva? In the city? No. In the village. Sattva is in the village. With the cow. This cow is the embodiment of Sattva. Sattva personified Gomata. Yes. Yeah. So, we want happiness, and the result of Sattva is? Sukriti.
Pious activities.
No, the result. If the result of Rajas is distress,
Nirmalam. Pure result.
happiness. Happiness. The result of Sattvagun is happiness. But even more than that, we want Shuddha Sattva, right? Transcendental goodness, where we become free from all lust, hankering, free from duality, and become very happy in Krishna consciousness. This can save the world. And only this can save the world. In my book, I'm in the end, last chapter, I write about different people, they're looking at the problems of modern society and they're concerned what we should do. And they're saying, let me see. They're saying we need a new morality. We need to recreate our economic system to serve people in the earth. We have to have fundamental philosophical and structural change. We have to change our culture. Anyway, it goes on and on. These guys are saying that we need to do these things. The problem is they don't tell us how to do it. We need a new morality, they say. A new way of relating to the earth. But they can't tell us how to do that. But Bhagavad Gita shows us exactly how to do that. Because we see everything in relationship to Krishna, because we become satisfied by devotional service. We're not hankering for more and more sense gratification. Everything is automatically adjusted. Nature can heal. The ecological problems can heal. Everything can become proper if we follow Bhagavad Gita. We have to give this example to the world because these other people, they don't know how to do it. Only Prabhupada is giving us the understanding what to do. So please try to understand this carefully. And each of you cooperate together to create a plan. How are we going to take everybody from this demoniac civilization and lead them into Daivivan Ashram? We have to have some plan. We cannot do this immediately or artificially. But just like this Transition Towns movement, they're making a plan how to survive after peak oil. We also have to make a plan. How are we going to come from here to Vanashram and Daivi Vanashram? This is our job. Okay, so I'm going on so long. We'll stop and we can have some discussion. Question, complaint.
You have nicely explained the simple way of being happy is to adopt the village life. Well, I come from that village life, so we are still there.
Uh-huh.
So another thing is that we have created so much of this city life, which we acknowledge and we see, look around, and we are in that kind of area. What if you try to, just like you are saying, to have a cow protection and those things, you need to adopt a village life. What about if you reject a village life and bring a cow to a city? Does it make it possible? And try to get that successful in a city life? Trying to have a cow in the middle of a place where there is no environment.
What are you going to do with the bull?
Nothing, just reject it.
This is the problem.
I can.
You see? When you have oil, when you have gasoline, what do you need a bull for? Right? And we think it's so easy. I'll go to the store, it's only $3 a gallon. I'll get some gasoline and I can do the work of 20 bulls for $3. But we don't see what's behind that. That gasoline appears to be magically at the gasoline station. But how did it get there? Somebody had to drill the oil out of the earth. In order to drill it, somebody had to make steel and all that steel. In order to make that steel, they had to have a steel mine, an iron ore mine. In order to make steel, you had to have a coal mine. You had to bring the coal to make the steel to make the drilling rig, drill the oil, then you had to have more steel to make a ship to carry it to the refinery, which is more steel. So this is why we call it the Iron Age of Kali, right? So much steel you need in order to get 1 gallon of gasoline. Now, why are we going to condemn all those millions of men to working such a suffering, ridiculous kind of job that destroys all finer sentiments of a human being in order so that we can have gasoline for $3 a gallon? If we are brahmanas, we have to think about the welfare of everyone, not just our own welfare. Have any of you ever worked in factory? Did you work in factory? You? Shipyard. Okay. When I was a young man, I worked at Ford Motor Company. I lived in Dearborn, the hometown of Henry Ford. I went to, it was an iron foundry where they're melting iron and making engine blocks to drive the cars. This job was exactly like going to hell every day. It was dark, there's fires burning, smoke. And these men that work there, you can't do that kind of work all the time, your whole life, without taking shelter of intoxication. I worked at another car company, a company that made seats for automobiles. We think, oh, it's very nice, I have a nice car, I only paid $20,000. But what about that person who made the seats for your car? I'll tell you. They're becoming more and more degraded by going to work and doing this all day. That's what they do. Because they can't make a machine to do that, so they get a person to do it. And it destroys the consciousness. So, if we are brahmanas, we have to think about the welfare of those people. Why we should exploit them like that. Why we should have conditions in which they have to suffer, misuse human form of life to go to hell, become animals in their next life, so that we can have a nice car and cheap gasoline. This is not the consciousness of a brahmana. Brahmana is looking for the welfare of everyone. How they will be saved. This is what Prabhupada wanted. He said, save all of them. And if you can't save all of them, save as many as you can. This is our job. This is what Krishna consciousness means. Save them. Save them from hellish life and give them happy life of Krishna consciousness. Okay?
If we follow the village like in Arizona, so Arizona is empty because you cannot get water or
In Arizona? Yeah, some places are not meant to be, they're not meant for humans. Rattlesnakes can live here. This place is not meant for human beings. Very artificial way of living here. We go somewhere else. A few can stay here and preach. Prabhupada said like that. All the grahastas, they should go to the village. The sannyasis and brahmacharis, they can stay in the city and preach.
It's the same thing for people to make this place stable. Place where people can stay. Some people are sacrificing so much of their timing. So many people have to do so much to get the water all the way from Colorado River because there is nothing around here.
But America has so much land still left, not like India, some other states.
Whole world. Yeah. Whole world is land.
Why they choose Arizona as to develop? Because foolishness, right?
Because of money. Without money, nobody would be here. In America, 97% of the people live on 3% of the land. Is that very intelligent? No. So, this culture is created purposely by a certain class of men for their purposes, which is to be able to exploit most people without their even knowing it. People don't even know how they're being exploited. They're simply born into a situation, they're trying to make the best of it and trying to survive, or maybe they can get ahead too. But the whole thing is designed for a bad purpose. It's not designed for a good purpose.
I think it works very well because, those people who buy condo, they go and buy a condo, they feel that it is as good as buying a home. Later on they realize that it is more uncomfortable living in condo than to live in apartment. Because the condo people have more, they are anybody, not anybody else.
So many things we can say in criticizing modern society.
So, you started this farm communities about the religion. But it's not, you can't send even a small portion of population with show how you think we can change the world with this system.
If you don't know how you change.
There needs to be a cooperative effort to make that successful. It cannot be successful just one or two families going there. We have to create a whole culture, village culture. And culture requires so many different kinds of people, and it also requires a lot of money. I was looking here at your life membership board, and so many people have given a lot of money to establish this very beautiful temple. That's nice. But we also need such a life membership plan to establish alternative village culture. To show people how to live and how to live happily in Krishna consciousness in a simple life. It's a lot more challenging. People, they will give to build this temple because they come to the temple. But to build a farm, somewhere not in Arizona, they're not going to be so inclined. But anyway, it takes, Prabhupada, he wrote in one paper he called Conceptions of Gita Nagari. He wrote this in 1956. He said that these Gita Nagari, this place where we live according to Bhagavad Gita, should be taken care of by two groups of devotees, the Shrutis and Srimatis. Shrutis being those Shrutidar, the devotee who knows what to do. And then Srimatis, those who Krishna has blessed them with a lot of wealth, and they can use that wealth in Krishna's service to create this Gita Nagari. So it requires cooperation of everyone like this. So I'm trying to do in Ukraine, Lithuania, also Moldova, in Russia we have now 4 or 5 communities starting up according to this idea of Prabhupada, exactly the idea. And so it takes help of many people.
Do you feel difficulty developing this business there?
Personally, I don't. I like to stay there. Even it's a little uncomfortable. For example, I would take bath in the winter. We had one room. I would put the heater there for a few minutes and then take bath. It was cold, but it's not so significant.
That means you need electricity in village also.
Well, electricity is there, so we were using. In the beginning, you cannot immediately go to change, right? You can't you put some piece of glass in the freezer and then take it out and put it in boiling water, it will break. So we don't have infrastructure set up, for a reasonable way of life. These village houses in Ukraine, they're actually a little too primitive. They can be made better. We can bring water inside the house. That's okay. We can have a drain so the water automatically goes outside the house. We can have heated room. We can have a bathroom in the house. That's okay. And then it won't be so bad. Right now that's not there. So we have to tolerate a little austerity for that. But that's the only way it will happen. If we don't do that austerity, we cannot make it manifest. We have to get there from here, right? Wherever we are. Whether you're in a city in Phoenix or whether you're in a village in Ukraine, you have to find a way to get to that Daivivanashram culture. And it's going to be different every place. It's not going to be the same. What you do here will be different from others. But you have to make a plan. Because even if they're correct that the oil is going to be finished, then what? You're going to have the same problem as your neighbors. But if you make a plan, how do we create this Daivivanashram village, then gradually you can create an alternative. You go up northern Arizona, make a farm up there, right, in the hills a little bit, where it's cooler and there's water. Like that. I think it's...
Is there what is written in your book? Just economic...
not all of this. Most of what I'm saying here is